everyone. So my name is Anna and I'm going to be your instructor for Math 141 this fall quarter at North Seattle College. So I just wanted to make this video both to introduce myself and then also to go through some of the most important things you need to know about this class. So we're going to be reading through some parts of the syllabus and then also looking at the Canvas for this class so that you can see exactly where you're going to be able to find all the different assignments, also talk about any important policies we have in this class. Basically just want to cover everything you're probably wondering about how is this class going to work. So I'm going to do my best to be as concise as possible, but based on previous experience, this video will probably be a little bit on the long side, just because there's a lot of little details that, questions that I know that students usually ask me, things I just want to make sure I cover as much as I can in this video. So what I'm going to do, because it is so long, is I'll put, if you look below the video in the description, you'll see some links that are kind of timestamps to different sections of the video. I would strongly recommend that you watch the video in its entirety the first time. And, you can always kind of throw it on in the background while you're doing something else if you're busy. But I just want to make sure you don't miss anything because I'm really trying to do my best to kind of cover everything in this video. That being said, if you need to then later go back and rewatch a specific section because you kind of forgot the details of it, you can always go look at those timestamps and kind of navigate to the appropriate section that you need to look at. Okay, so yeah, I'll start by introducing myself. So like I said, my name is Anna Schindler. You can just call me Anna. I actually prefer when students just use my first name rather than calling me, Professor Schindler or anything like that. So just call me Anna. So I am originally from the Boston area. I grew up there and then I lived in San Francisco for 8 years. And while I was in San Francisco, I got my master's degree in math at San Francisco State University. And then I moved up to Seattle and I've been teaching at North Seattle College for just over 3 years now. And I really love it. I love the students. I love my job. I love going to campus, which isn't really happening right now, but hopefully sooner than later we'll get back there. So I'm going to be kind of jumping back and forth between the syllabus. So right now I have the syllabus for this class pulled up, and then we'll also be looking at the Canvas for this class. So I'm going to start by going over some of the kind of fundamentals of this class by looking at the syllabus, and then eventually we'll get over to Canvas. So at the top here I have kind of the most important things to know. So I have my name, email address. So one important thing to know about this class is that there are two different sections and I had the two sections merged together on Canvas. So it's not really going to impact your experience with Canvas. When you go there, you're just going to see the assignments for your class. It's not really going to be confusing or anything like that. Really, the only thing that you need to pay attention to is that there's two different meeting times, and the meeting time that you go to depends on which section you're enrolled in. So if you're enrolled in section 16281, then you meet from 11 to 11:50 a.m. And if you're in section 16282, then you meet from 12 to 12:50 p.m. If you need to go to the other section for whatever reason, if you're busy one day and you just it's more convenient for you to go the other time, that's fine. Just let me know. I will say though that overall it will be a lot easier for me to manage and kind of keep track of attendance if you go to the section that you're actually enrolled in. You might be wondering, why do we only meet once a week? I'll get there in a little bit. Basically, it's not going to be the only way that you're learning in this class. There's going to be some stuff that you do on your own time. We also have office hours. So office hours are a time for you to come and ask any kind of questions you have. So typically students might come in and ask about questions from the homework, or just any questions they've had on concepts, or maybe if you just want to come and say hi, introduce yourself, anything like that is fine. You don't need to make an appointment. You can just drop in. So the office hours for this class are going to be from 3 to 5:30 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. There's one exception to that. This week I have a doctor's appointment on Monday, so I'm going to change it to Tuesday, but I'll send out an email about that. And so both the class meetings and the office hours are going to happen through Zoom. So I will send, or I'll show you in a little bit where you can find the links to join those things. So the prerequisite for this class is Math 98 with 2.5 or better, or a placement test. And so I will be requiring that you actually show me that proof of prerequisite. So I'll talk a little bit later about how that's going to happen, but just be aware of that. And then the textbook for this class, I'll get to that later. It's written here, but I have a little more to say about it in a little bit. Okay, so what is this class all about? Well, it's called pre-calculus because it is meant to prepare you for calculus. So basically, this class is going to be all about functions. It's going to be talking about specific different properties of functions, different things you can do with functions, and then looking at specific types of functions as well. So those types include polynomial, rational, exponential, and logarithmic functions. Okay, so how is this class going to work? Well, like I said, we're meeting once a week, and the class is entirely online. So you're not going to have to go to campus really for any reason for this class. So the majority of the learning materials for this class are asynchronous. So asynchronous means that you do them on your own time. And so what that's going to be is basically some videos, pre-recorded videos that I made for you to watch. And I'll show you how you access them. They're all just linked on Canvas. They're in YouTube. But yeah, each of those videos has a worksheet that goes along with it. And I'm not going to be collecting the worksheets. They're just really for your own practice. They include solutions. And so my expectation is that you on your own time will watch the videos and complete the corresponding worksheets. And then during our weekly meeting, I'm not going to be like teaching you new material from scratch. I might do a little bit of review, but the main purpose of those meetings is going to be to practice the concepts that you learned through the videos. So I'll show you this on Canvas, but basically there will be a problem set, like, a list of problems that we're going to be working on together during the meeting. And I'll post them ahead of time, like earlier in the week. So, you can take a look at them. You can even just try them yourself if you want. That way, when you come to the meeting, you'll kind of, I don't know, I feel like you'll be a little bit more invested, get a little bit more out of it than if you just come to the meeting and you have no idea what the questions are that we're looking at. So I'll let you know, I'll send out a message every week before our weekly meeting, letting you know which videos I will have expected you to watch, to have watched. Sorry, my grammar got very confused in that sentence. Basically what I'm trying to say is that at our weekly meeting, I'm not going to expect that you've watched all the videos for the week, right? Like I said, there's 4 to 6. I'm not going to expect that you've watched all of those before Thursday. Typically, it might be like the first 2 or 3 videos for the week is what we'll be covering in that session. So, and sometimes videos from the previous week as well. So I'll always send out a message letting you know. But yeah, I'll expect that you've watched some of the videos and then we'll be practicing together. So in addition to that, that's kind of those aren't anything that you turn in. That's just kind of like the learning process in this class. There will also be an online homework assignment every week. So I'll show you that on Canvas. There will also be a discussion board every week and a quiz every week. And then, not every week, but throughout the quarter, there will be a couple of midterm exams as well as a final exam. And so all of this will be accessed through Canvas, and that's going to be really important that you are kind of on top of checking Canvas, know kind of where to find stuff. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot in this video, is exactly where you'll be able to find everything on Canvas. Okay, so here you'll see basically how your grade is calculated. So you can take a look at this. One thing I just want to quickly mention is that if you look at this table at the bottom, you might notice it's kind of missing some numbers. It's not complete. It doesn't have every single grade on there. I have my own version of this that is more fleshed out, that has like all the details. This is just to kind of give you a rough idea without, cluttering the syllabus too much. Okay, so the textbook for this class, one thing that you should know about it is that it is optional. I do recommend that you get a copy, but I'm not going to be assigning problems directly out of the book. I'm not going to be telling you, oh, you have to read these pages from the book. If you do get a copy of the book, it's really just meant as a resource for your own study. So, a way for you to have something to look at if maybe you aren't completely satisfied by what I showed you in the videos, if you want like a second resource to help you learn. So if you do want a copy of the book, definitely don't feel like you have to buy a brand new expensive hardcover version. Feel free to get whatever version you can get your hands on. You could search for a free PDF. It might be out there. I'm not sure. You can get an earlier edition. Whatever you want to do. I just don't want you to feel like you're obligated to buy the book and then feel like we didn't use it. We're not going to officially use it. If you buy it, it's really just for your own study. So it's really your decision on whether you want to do that or not. And I'll show you when we get to Canvas a link to what exactly the book looks like. So another thing is a calculator. So in this class, you're going to want a scientific calculator. So a scientific calculator is basically, it's kind of like one step up from your like really basic calculator. So it allows you to do things like evaluate logarithms, which is something we'll get to at the end of the quarter. It kind of lets you type everything in at once rather than having to just like, do this times this plus this, all one at a time. This allows you to kind of type everything in at once. So they're not too expensive to buy, just like a standalone scientific calculator. But that being said, there are definitely a lot of free apps out there. I have one on my smartphone that I use all the time. I'll show you also a link to an online one that is nice. But that's definitely something that you're going to want to be familiar with for tests and quizzes, as well as on homework, honestly. We'll also be using something called Desmos. So Desmos is basically like much nicer graphing calculator. So you might have, used graphing calculators in the past, and honestly, I think they're kind of clunky, like just not a great experience. Desmos is really nice. It's free. They have an app, or you can just go to desmos.com. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But yeah, one thing to be aware of is that although we're going to be using it sometimes, for homework or like during the videos, or maybe it would help you on a worksheet, you're not going to be allowed to use Desmos on quizzes and exams because, I might have you actually graph something by hand, and I want to see that you know how to do it without, just typing it into a computer. Okay, so I'm going to now pull up our Canvas, and I'll come back to this, but I want to start giving you an idea of what you can expect on Canvas. So if you've never used Canvas before, I'm going to highlight part of this URL. So what you're going to want to type into your browser is canvas.northseattle.edu. Once you type that in, you will be brought to a login. And if you look kind of just below the login, it will tell you some like default information. It'll tell you what your default username and password are. So you can use that to log in. And then once you're logged in, you should see a list of your courses, and you can navigate to this class, and then you'll see this. So this is our homepage. I try to put some of the kind of most important or like things that students will routinely want to use on the homepage. So I have a link to the intro video, which, if you're watching this, you've already found your way there. I also have links to the different Zoom meetings, so 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. And then I have a separate link for office hours. So make sure you're using the right link because they're not all the same. They're like different classrooms that I set up essentially. One other thing to mention is that I'm not like always there in the Zoom classroom. So it's really only during the predetermined time that I'm going to be there. Like sometimes I'll get an email notification telling me that some student joined my classroom at like 9 p.m. and it's like, I'm not there. There's nothing wrong with clicking it, but yeah, I'm not going to be there unless it's, the predetermined class times or office hour time. That's those links. Let's see if there's anything else here. I also have some helpful links at the bottom here. We'll talk a little more about some of these. Actually, I probably will in just a minute. Here I have a link to the textbooks. Maybe I'll just show you that real quick. So this is what it looks like. So you definitely, if you do want to buy it, you don't need to buy it from this website or anything like that. This is just kind of the official website, so you can see all the different options that are available. They do also have it at the school bookstore. Another thing here, I put the exam dates. So we have a midterm on Friday, October 22nd, another midterm on Friday, November 19th, and final exam on Tuesday, December 14th. I'll talk more about exams a little later in this video, but just heads up that they're listed here. You don't need to email me and ask what they are because they're listed right on the homepage. few different links here. Some of these I'll talk about later, but let me just quickly pull up Desmos because I already mentioned that. So Desmos, as I mentioned, is this graphing calculator. Just to kind of show you a quick example, if I type in something like y is equal to x squared, what's really nice about it is you can like move around and zoom in and zoom out, and it just gives you a lot of functionality that you don't usually get on a graphing calculator. Another nice thing is if you put in a constant, like if I write something like y is equal to ax squared, it then gives me this slider, and so I can see what happens to the graph with different values of a. So just kind of show you a couple of examples of why Desmos is a nice tool to have. Desmos also has a scientific calculator, so that's also linked on the homepage. I think this is a really nice calculator to use on your computer. Just to be clear, you can use this during tests and quizzes. You can't use the graphing calculator, but you could use the scientific calculator from Desmos during a test or quiz. Okay, so the main place that you're going to want to go to see like all the materials and assignments for this class is the modules section. So if we click on the modules section, you'll see that for each week, so right now there's only 1 week, but for each week there will be a module. And so in the module, one thing you'll see is at the top there's this summary. So this tells you what sections are included in each video. It also tells you all of the different assignments. And one thing I want to point out, and I'll kind of come back to this a little later, is that for each of the videos, I tell you which homework problems kind of correspond to that video. And that's a really helpful thing to be aware of when you actually go and do the homework. But yeah, then you'll see all of these different videos linked. If you click on it, it will bring you to YouTube. You'll also see lecture notes for each video. So those are just like literally what I write down during the video. I just like export it as a PDF. I do recommend that you take your own notes. I think there's been a lot of research that shows that that actually helps you retain information better. But having these lecture notes is a nice resource so that, if you kind of want to find a specific part of the video, you don't have to go back and watch the whole video. You can just kind of look through the lecture notes. I also, like I said, have a link to the worksheet. Like I said earlier, the worksheets are not going to be turned into me. They're just for your own study, and they do include solutions at the end. So that's all the videos. Then we have some assignments. So these top 3 assignments, the introduction survey, syllabus quiz, and introductions discussion, these are special just for this week, and they're all really quick. I'll get to those a little bit later. The assignments that you can expect to see in a typical week would just be this homework assignment here and this discussion here. So I'll talk about those first. Another couple things, we see this weekly meeting tab. So as I mentioned, you'll see a PDF of practice problems that we'll be doing during the meeting. So I encourage you to take a look at those ahead of time so that you kind of know what we're gonna be talking about during the meeting. Also quiz stuff, and I'll talk more about the quiz in a little bit. But yeah, so that's how things will generally look. I feel like there's something I was about to say, but I forget what it was. So let me go back to the syllabus because we're going to start by talking about homework. So every week we're going to have an online homework assignment, and those assignments are generally going to be due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. My intention is not to make you do your homework late at night on a Sunday. I just want to give you full flexibility so that you can do the homework in a way that works with your schedule. Usually the homework assignment will have about 20 to 30 problems. It might be a little bit more sometimes. It depends kind of on the topic and how short and quick the homework questions are. I really recommend that you, rather than saving everything until the end of the week, that you kind of approach the homework questions throughout the week based on the videos. And that I showed you right in that little summary. I tell you which problems go with each video. So personally, what I would recommend doing is watch a video, do the worksheet to get some practice, and then do the homework questions that correspond to that video sooner than later. Even if you do end up doing the homework at the last minute though, I think seeing which homework questions correspond to each video can be really helpful, because if you're stuck on a specific problem and you're like, I don't know where to start, you can see which video that problem corresponds to, and that will help you know where to look, to see what kind of concepts or formulas you might need to be applying for that specific problem. So definitely take a look, like I said, at that weekly summary that will tell you which problems go with each video. So another thing to know about the online homework is that you have late passes available. So if you need an extension on the online homework, you can apply a late pass, and you're going to have 4 of them to use throughout the quarter. Each of them will extend your deadline by 48 hours. You can stack them. So if you need an extra 4 days on an assignment, you can use 2 late passes. You don't need to email me. There's no penalty. You don't need to let me know. You just click on something online, and I'll show you where that is in a second. I'll do it right now, actually. So when you want to do the homework, you'll click here where it says homework 1. One thing I want to quickly mention is that I know some students like to instead access the assignments using this kind of to-do list. I've found that leads to some issues sometimes. Sometimes if you click on the homework, especially if you've already started the homework and then you're going back to it, sometimes this link doesn't work anymore. And I get a lot of emails from students being like, I don't know what happened, the homework is closed, I can't work on it anymore. Generally, that's not the case. The issue is that you're trying to access it here instead of accessing it through the module section. And I just generally think going the module section is better because you can see all the context. You can see the assignments the way that I intend for you to see them rather than just as this generic list. But yeah, so you'll click on the homework here. The first time you click on it, you're gonna have to enter your name. So you'll do that. And then here you might see it's kind of small, but it says redeem late pass. So that is what you'll want to click on if you want to get an extra 48 hours. And so, for example, if I were to redeem the late pass now, instead of this being due on October 3rd, it would then be due on October 5th instead. So it always extends 48 hours past the original due date, not 48 hours past when you click it, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we can say start. And so you can go through the problems, like this. You can also kind of scroll through and find a specific problem to go to. Few things to know about the online homework. So one is that on each version of a certain question, you get 5 attempts. So for example, here I have 5 attempts to try to get this correct. If I don't get it correct, I can still do another version of the same problem. So essentially you have infinitely many attempts. That being said, don't abuse that. I know sometimes if there's infinitely many attempts, you feel like you can just keep spamming it with different answers until you somehow happen upon the right answer. That's not a great way to do the homework just because, when you get to tests and quizzes, obviously you can't do that. So I give you infinitely many attempts just so that you have the potential to always get the correct answer, even if it takes a while for you to get there. But yeah, make sure that you're kind of doing the homework in a way that actually helps you learn. Another thing I want to mention, let me see if I can find one that is like this. So some of the problems will have a video attached, or this one even has 2. I don't make the videos, they just kind of, another instructor made them. Not every homework problem has a video, but some of them do. If they do have a video, I think the videos are very helpful, but I would personally recommend that you try the problem yourself first. Because, like I said before, on a test and quiz, you're not gonna have a video that tells you how to do it, right? So you wanna kind of practice trying things yourself first before you go right away to seeing how someone else does it. Another thing to know about the online homework is that each question is submitted one by one. So as you complete a question, you submit it. And then your score is automatically updated as you work on the assignment. So for example, if I were to work on the assignment and I only do 3 questions and then I leave, it will temporarily look like I got, a 12% or some really low score on the homework. And that will get updated. It's just that you haven't worked so much on the homework yet. So just be aware that if you look at your grade when you haven't yet finished a homework assignment, it will bring your grade down, but that's only temporary. The other thing is that you don't ever need to submit the whole assignment as a whole. You only submit each question one by one. Your score is automatically updated. So occasionally Canvas might send you some kind of notification saying your assignment has been submitted. You got 22%. And students sometimes will panic and email me and say, how do I get back into it? You can still access it. That really is meaningless. That just, I don't know. I think it's just Canvas's way of saying that it automatically recorded your score. But you can still access the homework as long as it's before the due date. Just make sure that you access it using the modules section and not the home page. That's where people run into problems, is when they try to click it on the home page. So basically, long story short, you can ignore anything saying that, your assignment was submitted. You can always rework on the homework up until the due date. And if you want to work past the due date, you can use a late pass. I think that covers what I want to say about online homework. So let me go back to the modules section and also go back to the syllabus. Okay, so participation. So there's going to be 2 different ways to get participation credit in this class. And participation, by the way, is 12% of your grade, which I think some students kind of neglect that. And I've seen a lot of students who do well on other things and then end up not doing so well in the class because they just ignore the participation part. So I think for most students, it's a good way to boost your grade, but make sure that you're kind of keeping on top of this. So the 2 different ways to earn participation credit are 1, attending our weekly Zoom meeting. So that is not mandatory. It is one way to earn participation credit, but it's not mandatory. And then the second way is by making discussion board posts. So basically, if you do attend the meeting, you only need to make 1 discussion board post. But if you do not attend the meeting, then you need to make 2. So 2 different ways to get to full credit for the week. And one thing this is kind of off topic, but I forgot to mention, is that I will post a recording of each of the meetings. So like I said, it's not mandatory. The recording will be posted. It's just, a nice way to earn some participation credit. Okay, so how does the discussion board work? Well, like I said, it's listed here under assignments. And so I'm going to click on week 1 questions. So basically, the discussion board is a place for you to ask or answer questions about the content of this class, so about math. So that's kind of the first rule to know, is that you're not going to get credit for a post that you make if it's something like, hey everyone, when is the midterm? Or, hi everyone, what does anyone know when this thing is due? Or something like that. That's just, you can make that post if you want, but you're not going to get participation credit for it. In order to get participation credit, you need to make a post about math. So that could be a question about the homework. It could be a more general kind of conceptual question. It could be a question like, how is this idea connected to an idea from earlier in the quarter? Or, this reminds me of something from my physics class. Is there a connection? Or, anything like that. You can also ask questions from the videos or from the worksheets. Anything that you have a question about is fair game, as long as it is, mathematical. And then you can also answer questions. So if you don't have a question to ask, you can answer someone else's question. And I don't mind if multiple people answer the same person. So let's say that you don't have any questions and you're scrolling through the discussion board and every single question has been answered. That's fine. You can just answer one of the questions that has already been answered. And so, why do I allow that? Well, basically, I think it is helpful for someone to get multiple responses, right? They might want to see things explained different ways. So as long as you're kind of saying something a little bit different or contributing something new in your response, that is totally fine. So if you are asking a question, there's kind of one other rule to know, which is that in order to get full credit, I do require you to provide some context and kind of show that you've actually thought about the question. So for example, if you were just to post, hi everyone, how do you do number 10? That would not get full credit because you're basically just asking someone to do your homework for you. So what would be good is if you're like, hi everyone, I'm stuck on number 10. This is what I tried. And maybe you upload a picture of your work, or maybe you describe it in words. Or maybe you're like, well, I thought that it was this kind of problem, but it's different in this one way, so I'm stuck. Just something to kind of help, first of all, help me see that you actually tried the problem yourself or that you've actually thought about it. But also to kind of help the person who's going to answer you to know what they can do to be most helpful, right? So that they can address where your thinking is going wrong. So again, if you can show any work you've done, that's great. If you can explain why you're stuck, that's great. Sometimes students will just show a screenshot of their answer. That is not very helpful. You can't really tell from someone's answer what they did. So don't do that. If you're gonna show your answer, you should also show your work so someone can kind of figure out where you went wrong. Similarly, if you're answering a question, just make sure that you are trying to help the person learn. So, don't necessarily just be like, here's the answer. Make sure you're walking them through the steps in a way that will actually help them the next time, right? Okay, so again, just to reiterate, 2 posts on this, and those could be either questions or answers or a mix of both if you do not attend the weekly meeting, and only 1 post is required if you do. You can always make more posts than that, but that's kind of the minimum that you need in order to get your participation credit for the week. While I'm talking about discussions, I will just mention a couple of other ones. So introductions, I'll talk about that later. I have a discussion called typos and errors. So that's a place that if you think that there's a mistake on any of our course materials, that you can make a post there. You can also email me, but making a post on the discussion board is just a nice way so that other students can see that as well. Instead of everyone emailing me, they can all go and be like, oh, okay, someone's already brought that up. One other thing on that topic is that if there's a correction to a video, what I'll do is I'll kind of write down the correction in the video description. So when you're watching the videos for this class, if you think you found a mistake, look at the description of the video because it's definitely possible that I've already addressed that mistake. I also put a discussion board for pet photos. I don't have a pet because my apartment doesn't allow them, but I just think it's kind of fun to see people's mostly, cats and dogs and occasionally other exotic animals. Sometimes people post a picture of their plants if you kind of consider those your pets. So yeah, that's totally optional, but I think it's just kind of a fun, light-hearted thing to have in addition to the usual math stuff. Okay, so that is participation. Quizzes. So most weeks there will be a quiz on Friday. So I just want to say up front, the quizzes are not meant to be like some big scary thing. They're going to be very short and pretty predictable. I'm not going to be trying to trick you or, put anything crazy on there. It's basically just to kind of see, have you been keeping up with the materials? So the quizzes will always be available from 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. However, once you start the quiz, there will be a time limit. So usually the time limit is about 45 minutes. That's pretty generous. Usually I'd say the quiz itself is only designed to take you like 15, 20 minutes. And the extra time is because you're going to need to then photograph your work and upload it to Canvas. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but yeah, that's why you're given so much time. It's not because it's meant to take you a full 45 minutes. The quiz will usually be based on not the entire week, but on problems from the beginning of the week. So basically the same kind of stuff that we cover in the weekly meeting. You can kind of think of the weekly meeting as like a study session for the quiz. So if you go to the modules section, you'll always see a description of what's going to be on the quiz. So if you try to click this, I think it will tell me that I can't access it. Yeah, the quiz is locked until the actual day of the quiz. But what you can do is click on this description. So if you click on the quiz description, that will tell you exactly what to expect on the quiz. So it will tell you which videos to watch. It will tell you what types of problems you need to be able to do. I don't want there to be any surprises. I want you to know exactly the type of content that you're expected to know on the quiz. Your lowest quiz grade is also dropped, so you can miss one or bomb one without having that be any kind of an issue. Was that all I had to say about quizzes? Probably. Okay, exams. So exams will be very similar to quizzes in their format. So they're also posted on Canvas. For the exams, I will post a review ahead of time, like usually probably like almost a week ahead of time. I'll post a review with solutions so that you can get started with studying. But similarly with quizzes, the exams will be available all day, but there will be, once you start, there will be a time limit. Okay, so how will the quizzes and exams work exactly? Well, I'm not going to go completely into detail about this because I'm going to maybe make another video or at least kind of write out an email that gets a little more into detail. But basically, when you click on the quiz or exam and start it, you'll see a PDF to download, and that PDF will be the quiz or exam. If you can print, if you have a printer and you can print out the quiz or exam, I really prefer that because it just makes it kind of easier for me to grade. But if you don't have a printer, that's totally fine. Either way, you're going to write down your work and your answers either on, the quiz or exam PDF or on separate paper. Keep everything labeled nicely, all that. And then what you'll do is you'll take some photos of your test and quiz, or maybe if you have a scanner, you can scan it. And then I do require that you take those files, maybe the photos that you took on your phone or the files on your computer from scanning it. You do need to compile those into one PDF. And so again, I'll send out some more details on this, but there are plenty of free tools you can use online that allow you to take multiple images and put them together into one PDF. One other thing is that some students who have tablets will instead just download the PDF and write directly on their tablet on the PDF, save it as a PDF, upload it. That is totally fine. That actually is great. I feel like that's probably the best way to do it if you do have a tablet, but obviously not everyone does, so that's fine. Is there anything else? Okay, I guess the last thing I want to say is, kind of while we're looking at the module section, is there's a few specific assignments that are special just for this week. There's 3 of them. They're really not a big deal. I don't want you to feel like there's 1,000 assignments this week because these are actually really quick. So one of them is just another discussion board. This is for you to introduce yourself to your fellow students. You can just say hi, share your name and pronouns, your major or program, why are you taking this class, and then something you like to do in your free time. Just so that, the other people in the class, you're going to be interacting with each other, both in, our weekly meetings and on the discussion board. This just gives you a way for you to get to know each other on some level. So that is due on Sunday. Another thing due on Sunday is this syllabus quiz. So this is basically just a way for me to check that you actually have either read the syllabus or watched this video or both, and that you're aware of the things that you need to know about this class. So the questions are pretty simple. They're things that you can just quickly look up on the syllabus or in the video. And you can take this quiz as many times as you want, and only your highest score will be kept. So you can basically keep going until you get 100%. So that is also due on Sunday. And then the last thing that is special just for this week is this introduction survey. So this is just for me. No one else is going to read this except for me. But basically just asks you some different information about yourself. So just want to point out a couple of things. So I ask you if you have either a nickname or a name that is different from the one that is your kind of default name on Canvas. If you could just give that to me, as well as to share your pronouns. And I also want to mention that you can change your name and then also add any pronouns on Canvas. And you can do that by clicking on Account and then clicking on Profile. And I think if I do that now, because I'm in this kind of student view, I don't think it's going to work. But when you do it, when you click on Profile, there should be something that says Edit Profile, and then you can edit your name and add your pronouns. And that way, if you write in the discussion board, students will know the correct name to address you by and what pronouns to use for you. So that's some of the stuff I ask. I also ask for you to tell me how you placed into the class and to also upload proof of your placement. So that would be your transcript showing your grade in Math 98, or your placement test results, whatever you use to place into this class. And so the reason that this assignment is due on, it's due I think on Wednesday, the 29th, so it's due pretty early. And that's because I want to make sure that everyone has the correct prerequisites, and that way if you don't, you still have time to register for a different class. So I just want to make sure we kind of get that out of the way at the beginning of the quarter before it's too late for you to drop this class and take a different class. So yeah, so those are the, some of those are the typical every week assignments. Some of them are just for this week. I know it probably seems like a lot right now, but I think once we get into the swing of things, I try to be very predictable and consistent with kind of when things are due. And so I think, by the second week, you'll probably kind of get into the flow of things. Okay, so other things to talk about. So this section, I call it my teaching philosophy, which sounds really fancy, but basically it's just some information about what I think is important as a teacher and kind of how that shapes the way I teach. And I just think that that's important for you to know so you can kind of know why I do things the way I do. Okay, sorry, my voice It's getting a little hoarse. This is the second introduction video I've made today, so it's been a lot of talking. So this first point is, it's not specifically about math, but I think this is really important. So first thing I said is we are all human. So, you're students, I'm a teacher, but at the same time, I think of you as being human beings before I think of you specifically as being students. And what do I mean by that? Well, a couple of things. One thing is that I know that this class is not your entire life. I know you have other things going on in your life. You have other classes, maybe you have, jobs, all kinds of different things going on in your life. And so I will never act like this is the only thing going on in your life. There is a lot of work to do in this class. There's a lot to learn, but I never assign more work than I feel is necessary to practice the concepts that we're learning. And I'll also be pretty flexible if you let me know ahead of time that you have conflicts. Like, for example, if you have something going on the day of a quiz or a test, or if you get sick or anything like that, if you let me know ahead of time, I'm happy to be flexible with you. Just you have to let me know, or else I don't know what's going on. So communicate with me. I'm more than willing to be accommodating if you have other kinds of things going on in your life. Another important thing about this sort of we are all human idea is that I do not judge students based on their performance in this class. I do not think of students who do well as like more worthy than students who don't do well. Obviously, I want everyone to do well in this class, right? Like, I love teaching. I love when students get it. I love getting students to that aha moment. That's great. I wish that every student could really succeed at this class. That's not going to be the case for everyone. Different people have different kind of measurements of success, and some people are going to have too much going on in their life to really, devote their full effort to this class, and I totally get that. So I just want you to know that I'm never like judging you based on your performance in this class or your performance on a test or anything like that. Every quarter, I feel like I get at least one student emailing me because they didn't do as well as they expected on a test or a quiz or something, and they're like apologizing to me. And that really bums me out. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to apologize to me. I want you to do well, but yeah, I'm not judging you, basically, is all I want to say there. Similarly, I hope that you recognize that I'm also a person. Teachers, we're people too. We have lives. Most of us, I think, work really, really hard, especially with the transition to online teaching. It's been a lot of work, and I put a lot of effort and time into this class. But that being said, I do have a life outside of teaching. So, respect that and recognize that I'm not going to respond to every email instantaneously. I'm not like an in-demand tutor or on-demand tutor. Yeah. And, I make mistakes sometimes too. So, just be aware of that. I think the more we can just kind of recognize that each other are people, the better we're going to get along. Okay. So now a few things are a little bit more specifically about math. So the first thing is that, I value in the way that I teach math, I value understanding over memorization. And so you'll see that I really emphasize the concepts in this class, as well as sort of like why things are true. Like it's very, very rare that I will just kind of hand you a formula without telling you where that formula came from, or like how you can think about that formula, or how to make sense of it, things like that. So you can expect to see that in the way that I teach, and also on the homework, and especially I'd say on quizzes and exams. I'm not going to ask like really crazy out there questions, but I will ask some questions that are designed to see how well you understand the concepts, rather than just have you memorized a process that you can then repeat. So just be aware of that. Okay, so next one, this I think is probably the most important part of the math stuff. So math isn't a spectator sport, and it isn't easy. So I'm going to start with the spectator sport part. So, this is something I think most people realize in like other skills or things they're trying to learn. Like, for example, if you are a skateboarder and you're trying to learn a new trick, you can go to YouTube and watch like 10 videos of someone doing that trick. And you're going to learn something from those videos, right? But there's no way you're going to learn how to do the trick unless you actually like try it yourself, right? And you're probably going to fall a whole bunch of times. You're going to mess it up until eventually you get to the point where you can actually do it. And for some reason, I feel like people don't take that same attitude with math, but it is totally the same. You can't just sit there and passively watch YouTube videos and expect that you're just going to know how to then do the problems yourself. You really have to be willing to practice and try things yourself. And so I would recommend when you watch the videos, try to take kind of like an active role, pause the videos, try the problems yourself. I'll recommend that throughout the videos. You'll hear me say like, pause the video and try an example. But even when I don't say that, you're always encouraged to pause the video, try things yourself. Also the worksheets, take advantage of those. When you're doing the homework, maybe don't jump straight to like asking someone for help or watching the video, try it yourself first. You have to kind of put in that hard work and struggle in order to get the result of actually understanding something. On that note, math is not easy, and I'm not saying that in order to scare you or intimidate you or anything like that. I'm just saying that because I think some students, they might find themselves struggling in this class and maybe you've done well in previous math classes, but something about this class you just find challenging. Or maybe you've always found math challenging, but either way, I don't want you to think that something is wrong with you if you're struggling. There's nothing wrong with struggling in a math class or any class for that matter. It's totally normal and it doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. Different people are going to have to put in different amounts of time into this class, but I just want you to know that if you're having difficulty, don't give up. Know that that's normal, it's fine, and there's a lot of resources available to help you. And you might just need to be willing to put in that extra time and kind of be okay with struggling a little bit until you can get to the point where you've started to understand something better. Last point here, math is collaborative. So sadly, this is like a little bit harder to implement when we're not in person. But yeah, basically, I just don't want you to think that you have to be completely alone in learning math. I think the more that you can talk to other people and get other people's help, give other people help, all of those things, talk about math, like that's just really going to help you understand the concepts better. So I really encourage you to talk to each other, use the discussion board, come to office hours, go to tutoring, work with other people. I think it will really help you, if you're struggling, it'll help you understand things better. And if you're not struggling, helping other people can really help reinforce the concepts for you as well. Okay, couple more things. We're almost done here. Academic honesty. So this is a really big thing with online learning. So yeah, so basically the internet is great, right? The internet has a ton of resources available. There's so many YouTube videos, websites, whatever. There's so many things out there that can help you. And for the most part, I think that's really great, right? It's really helpful in helping people learn. That being said, because there's so much available at our fingertips, sometimes you can kind of keep yourself from really learning if you're overly reliant on the internet. So for example, if you're working on a homework question, if you don't even try it yourself, if you just look at it and you're like, oh, this looks too hard, and you immediately Google it, or you immediately watch the video that's included, you're really robbing yourself of the experience of actually figuring it out. And it's in that time of actually figuring it out that you're gonna learn the skills that you're gonna need on quizzes and exams. Is there anything else I want to say there? Yeah, I mean, it might help you kind of in the short term, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that it will probably hurt your learning in the long term. And furthermore, on quizzes and exams, you are not allowed to use the internet. So I know it's just, there's a slippery slope, right? Like maybe you think it's okay to look up just this one thing, but then that might lead to looking up more. Then next thing you know, you're posting the entire exam on Chegg. Just don't do it. Don't use the internet other than, for like the scientific calculator. Don't use the internet to research quiz and exam problems. Every quarter I catch people cheating. Like I said, I know about Chegg. I give out zeros. I try to generally be a really accommodating, flexible teacher. I don't like failing students. I really, really don't. It does not give me any satisfaction to fail a student. But this is something I just feel very strongly about. So if you are caught cheating on and actually I didn't put this here. I forgot to update the syllabus. So if you are caught cheating one time, you will get a 0 on that assignment. So that would be on tests and quizzes. Everything else you can use, whatever resources. If you are caught cheating a second time, you will get a 0 in the entire class, and you'll also be reported to student conduct. So I'll update the syllabus to have that information down so you have that in writing. But yeah, that's my policy with cheating. Okay, so just 2 more items. So one is getting help. So there's lots of resources available for you for getting help. One thing is attending office hours. I think it's really helpful just to be able to actually have a conversation about whatever it is that you're confused about. You can also email me your questions, although sometimes I might recommend that you come to office hours instead. If it's, if the question gets a little complicated and there's a lot of back and forth, it might just be easier for us to hop on Zoom. And actually, I forgot to mention this. If you can't come to normal office hours, feel free to send me an email to set up another time to meet. I'm happy to work with your schedule and find another time to meet. I will check my email regularly about from 10 to 6 on Monday through Friday. That doesn't mean you can't email me at other times, but it does mean that you shouldn't expect an immediate response if you email me at like 10 p.m. on a Saturday, right? Like, I'm not just sitting at my computer waiting for emails to come in all the time. I might sometimes respond, but if I do respond to you, on a weekend or late at night, don't take that as an invitation that like I will constantly be available to respond to your emails at that time. There's also the discussion board. I think the discussion board is a great place, like Sundays at 11 p.m. Lots of people seem to be posting on the discussion board. So if it's too late to email me, discussion board is a good place to try. There's also tutoring. So the Math Learning Center has virtual tutoring. I think they're also going back to in-person tutoring. I'll send out some information about that when I know it. But I would highly recommend that. They have really great tutors. A lot of my former students end up tutoring there. So if you click on this link, and I also linked it on the homepage on Canvas, that will take you to here at the top. That will take you to some information about tutoring. And then the last thing I want to mention is that if you have a disability and you need some accommodations, like for example, if you get extra time on tests or things like that, I am more than happy to honor your accommodation, but I do require that you go through the official process. So if you do have a disability, you need to contact Disability Services, and they will then send me an email that specifically lists out your exact accommodations. So if you do have a disability, I would recommend getting on that sooner than later. Sometimes the process, takes a little longer than you would expect. So yeah, I would just recommend getting on that soon if that applies to you. All right, I think that is it. There's more to read on this syllabus, but I think it's stuff that you can read yourself. It's not stuff that I have too much to really expand on. So I'm sure I forgot something, but thank you for watching this video. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting you all soon and working with you this quarter.